All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Rogue Deck Chronicles. My name is John, and as always, sitting across from me here is Dean.
Hello, everyone.
All right, so we are getting into it. We are in episode 13. Can you believe that we're this far into it already? Like
we've done this many times,
right? And we are not tired of it yet. What?
And people are not tired of us yet.
So, this episode, we're going to talk about Baltimore Regional. We had some friends that went to that and talked to us about that last night. So we have some comments towards the Baltimore structure, some of the top decks that we saw make it. There were some pretty interesting decks that made it through Baltimore.
Oh, yeah.
We also had a challenge last night where Dean got his first top finish for challenges.
Yay.
Woohoo!
Yeah, my first,
of this season.
Yeah, this season, my first top finish. I got a top finish for Cup, but it's nice to get a challenge out of the way.
Right.
So.
Then we'll get into some trivia, and then we'll talk about the Rogue Deck of the Week, which we'll make hints towards throughout today's session, because
yeah,
Dean definitely is happy with this deck that he played.
Oh,
so.
yes, I am.
All right, so first topic is Baltimore. A couple of our friends went. They said a couple of our friends actually did pretty decently. I
think two of them got top 256.
Yeah, so not bad.
Didn't make day two, but they got points.
Well, a lot of people didn't make day two with the new structure now. That is crazy.
Fun fact, one player in day two did not get top 128. There was 129 players that made day two.
Oh my
so
gosh!
I
didn't even realize that.
So one player got top 256.
We have that. I have the list up. I didn't even realize. I didn't look at the numbers. Yeah, 129. Oh, Thomas Dietmar.
So feel a bad moment right there.
Sorry, man. And with Charizard too. Charizard was not the play.
So we'll talk about the structure and stuff. But yeah, we had some friends that went out there. They had a good time. The first regional, North American, really any regional of the season.
Yeah.
Not even just North America, just all of them.
Yep.
Of course, there's a new structure. The winner was the new deck, Gardevoir.
Guardy's back.
Guardy's back.
Well, let's rephrase that. Turbo Guardy is here.
Yes, it is a new variation of the Gardevoir EX. We'll talk about that list and some of the other lists. But yeah, like it came from a really good player. So
wait. Looking at the top 8 again. 1, 2, 3 Lugias and 1 Guardy. Like, how is 4 out of the top 8 back to the same format? Like, what are we doing? And Roaring Moon. What are we doing?
But remember, there was a top. They did the asymmetrical cut. So there was
that
actually 10 players that made top cut.
True.
But 9 and 10 lost their play-ins. So that was the Palkia deck.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting deck that did really well with this player. And then Snorlax Stall.
Yeah.
So those were the two players that missed top 8 with their play-ins. But they had the same record as the other top cut players. So nothing to scoff at. Like,
no.
Some interesting decks. One deck in particular came out of nowhere.
Yeah, the Ogerpon
Noivern
deck. And not the Ogerpon that you're expecting to see. It's not the Teal Mask. It is the Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon.
Yeah.
It's a different control deck. It's interesting.
Yeah, it still attacks, but it just limits what the player does. Because either you're trying to use the Cornerstone, which has the ability that prevents damage from Pokemon with abilities, which a lot of Pokemon are like that now. Or, if you're going against big basic decks, you play the Noivern.
Yep.
You're doing little damage, but you're still doing damage, and then you're preventing them from attacking you.
Right.
So it was a smart play. The casters were talking about this all weekend.
Yeah.
And it seemed like it was centered around the same group. All the Canadians brought that over.
Yep.
So, of course, the Canucks come up with something interesting.
Dean is sitting there being smug across the table from me. But
hey, he's not the only Canadian that made top 8. We have Rowan Savinoff there. And Kieran Farah got second. So Canadians showed up strong.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. But yeah, I mean, we see your standard Lugias through the top 8. getting right out of top 8, placing 9th was a Palkia Dusknoir build, which was kind of cool. Helping out with it was, I think that was more a deck that's getting ready for the Stellar Crown format. I think that's going to possibly be a build that will get helped out by that with more bench space. But using the Dusknoir to take add some damage and then be able to come in with the Palkia and clean it up, I think that's a decent tactic there, just to be able to take out your bigger stage 2s.
Yeah, because you're almost guaranteed of your opponent to have a full bench with this format.
Right.
There's very little decks that only put 1 or 2 Pokemon in play.
Right.
So it takes advantage of how many Pokemon are going to be on the bench on both sides. And then this list also has the 101 line with the Greninja EX.
Right.
For the Miraidon and the Iron Thorns matchup.
Right.
So it's still well-rounded. Like, yes, Palkia is weak to lightning, but to be fair, it's getting one-shotted anyway in most decks. So
yeah.
weakness, yes, Miraidon and Iron Thorns hits for weakness and cannot make that in one shot instead of 2-shot. But with the Greninja, that one-shots them back.
Right. We are seeing a little bit farther down the list the Bayonet Dusknoir build. That was an interesting one to see there. And placing 38th, the deck that Dean actually took to the challenge yesterday and did well with.
Yes.
You want to introduce it?
It should be no surprise to you all. It's Klawf Electrode.
Making a comeback.
And to be fair, it's actually a decent pick in this format. It is. If you really think about it, the Klawf hits weakness into the Miraidon and Iron Thorns. So you have that, and then you play one of the Electrode. That one shots Roy Moon, hit for weakness to that.
Yep.
Hits for weakness with the Charizard, and then anything else you're not hitting for weakness you play a Binding Mochi, which increases Klawf's attack to 210, and you're one shotting a lot of the basic support Pokemon like all the Ogre-Pons, Squawkabilly, Fez.
Lumineon,
Mew. Yeah, you're hitting one shot into all those, and then like, okay, what if they're playing Bloodmoon Ursaluna, 260 HP? Well, you hit for a weakness to that too, so you're one shotting that as well, which I actually learned last night. I did not realize that because you don't really need to worry about the Bloodmoon. When my opponents played it, I'm like, oh, I hit one shot that too, and he was like, and you win. I'm like, yeah, sorry, man.
Yeah,
but it's a fun deck. Cheap deck to make, so anyone that is looking into trying to get into the competitive scene, kind of like what we talked about last week, and you're looking for something that's not going to break the bank, this is actually a very good build.
Oh, it really is. Like, I completely agree. Scrolling down, we'll talk a little bit more about it with the Rogue deck section. But I scrolled down a little bit. I didn't see him on stream the times that I was able to see stream. Alex Szymanski played a Darkrai Dusknoir.
Yes, he was on stream once.
I didn't get to see it, unfortunately, but that's actually that's an interesting one.
You missed your string cheese man.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh no.
He got 40th. He was right underneath him.
I was too excited about seeing Klawf. All right, hold on.
So one Goldango player made top 8. It's actually one of the Kawasaki.
Day two.
Sorry, day 2. Yes, sorry.
Yep,
it was one of the Kawasaki brothers. He ran back the same list that he played in Worlds.
Yeah, I mean he's playing the Palkia build. I don't know. He threw a Klefki in there. That's interesting. Yeah, I don't. For those of you that don't know, I got 2 top 8 finishes with and challenges with a Goldango build, and I play the Reverum build. I just think it's more consistent, except when I played Dean last night, and we'll talk about that later.
Yeah,
I'm still not bitter about that whatsoever. But so yeah, there was a lot of interesting things that made day 2. I know, Dean, you said you saw some ARC builds in there that really interested you.
Yeah, there's the one that pops out the most is Arceus Armarouge still. That's still around. It got 43rd Let's look at that list real quick. It's like a standard Arceus list, but it does play some electric Pokemon in there. It runs the Luminous and Legacy energies.
That makes sense.
So it plays the Raikou and Iron Hand. So if you need to go that route, you have the capability to do that. Which honestly, that's not a bad idea. You load up your Fire Energy and then use Armor Rouge to move it all around, and all you do is just attach Luminous or Legacy to your electric Pokemon. So that's smart.
Yeah.
But other than that,
95, an interesting deck, an Ursaluna Iron Valiant.
Oh yeah, that one.
I didn't really see that one. I'm seeing this for the first time. That's interesting. Using the Iron Valiant EX, and then using the mini Bloodmoon Ursaluna to come in as well and clean up some stuff is interesting. So
yeah, because you damage yourself for a Mad Bite, and then you just do a bunch of damage.
Right, but you also prizer. Yeah, it's a single prizer, but you're also doing it does 30 more damage for each damage counter on the opponent's active. So yeah, you have to damage yourself a little bit, but you're also hitting weakness for Miraidon and Iron
Thorns.
Iron Thorns. Yeah, you're not going to be able to use Battle Hardened.
And then Fezandipiti.
Yeah, Fez. Yeah,
and then big Bloodmoon.
Yep. So you're doing a lot of damage there with that.
Fighting's making a comeback.
It is. We see Iron Thorns, a couple of Iron Thorns that made it. Chen Pao's.
One Chen Pao, yeah.
So it definitely is, but you see a lot of Dragos. Drago makes up a huge meta share. So
it was 22 of the 129 was just Drago alone.
Yeah,
which doesn't surprise me. It's a powerful deck. It does what it needs to do. It's consistent.
Yep.
So,
but the other thing is we're seeing only 129 people make a day 2. That's not what we're used to.
It's almost 100 less than the amount of people that made day 2 in Charlotte with me.
Right. That's just insane. And that's because, as we talked about before on the podcast, there is going to be there has been a change to the way that day 2 qualifications work. So for those that don't know, because this happens, like we talked about with, I think was it last episode that we talked about how competitive tournaments work? I believe, yeah, it was the last episode. Hey all you rogues out there, we just wanted to take a quick second to say thank you to our sponsor, For Honor and Glory. They are a great support to us and have all the things you need related to Pokemon, Magic, D&D, Warhammer, and more. You can go over to forhonorandglory.com and use discount code ROGUE24. That's discount code ROGUE24 at forhonorandglory.com for 10% off your entire online order. All right, let's get back to talking about those sneaky decks.
Last episode we kind of talked about if you're interested in getting into competitive play, you should familiarize yourself with the tournament structure at the regional level and above. Right.
And so, like we talked about last time, for a win, you're going to get 3 points. And so, for any regional that's, I believe, now over 20 or 2,000 people.
It's like 2,000 or 2,100 or something like that.
You still go your 9 rounds. But now instead of 18 match points, which would be 19 match points, which was a 6x1, you now need 21 match points.
Yeah.
Which is a 7xx or a 6x3.
Yeah.
Or it would be 603.
Yeah.
That's the only way. So you need at least a 7-2 or a 603. Which is insane to think about.
So I pulled up NAIC because I was curious how many people made day 2 at NAIC. 289.
Out of a smaller field, too.
Oh no, NAIC had a decent.
NAIC. Sorry, I was thinking Worlds for a second. No,
Worlds was about the same because it followed the same structure.
Right, I was trying to think how many people were at Worlds. I don't think there was that many.
Not that much compared to these regionals.
Right.
That's why I didn't want to use Worlds because Worlds only had 1,200 players. Right. versus NEIC had 2,700. Baltimore had 2,300.
Yeah.
So going from 289 players
in day 2 to 129, you're more than cutting the field in half.
Yeah.
And then you're introducing the asymmetrical cut, which we talked about, which they're changing a lot of things. It is making it a lot more competitive. And we talked to some of our friends last night at the challenge that did go. One of our friends went, I think he said 6'2".
He went 6'3".
6'3". And then another one of our friends went like 4'4" or something like 4'1".
Something like that.
Something like that. Both of them ran into interesting situations with gentlemen's agreements.
Yeah.
Which, for those that don't know, especially when you're doing a best of 3 format, you have the opportunity to do a gentleman's agreement. Where a gentleman's agreement is if, before you start playing round 1, you'll ask, do you want to do a gentleman's agreement? And so actually, why don't we go ahead and kind of go through. So like, hey man, let's say we're in round 4. Hey man, what's your record?
Well, obviously, we're 3-1 right now. Or no,
we're both going into round. We're going into round.
Round 4. So we're
2-1.
Let's say we're 1-2.
1-2. Okay,
that's to 2-1. You still have some leeway. So
yeah. So we're at 1-2 going into round 4. We both hit our losses. Our max amount of losses for the regional at this point to be able to make day 2. So hey man, what's your record?
I'm 1-2, man.
You want to do a gentleman's agreement? So prize cards if we hit game 3.
I don't know. I think board state would be better.
And so here's where we hit an issue with gentlemen's agreements. There's 2 technical ways that you can do it, and I'm saying technical with air quotes here because gentlemen's agreements aren't able to be upheld.
They're not official by the tournament at all.
They're not.
This is between you and your opponent. Judges cannot uphold them. So if you say when you go into time, there's no winner. You cannot go to your judge like, "Hey, judge, he made a gentleman's agreement and he's backing out."
They'll look at you. Both of us sitting here as judges will look at you and say, "There's nothing we can do."
It's like,
and it sucks because we've both been in those situations as well. But as a judge, there's nothing we can do. We can't. There is nothing in the rule book that states that we can uphold a gentleman's agreement.
All we're going to say is who won.
Yeah,
or is this a tie?
Yep, that's the only thing that we
can't do anything else because there's nothing binding them to the agreement. This is more just for competitive sake. Especially as we mentioned, you need to get 7-2 or better to make day 2. A tie does not help you unless you get 3 of them, which is hard to do already, even with the old format.
Right. So I brought up one way. Dean brought up another way to ask about a gentleman's agreement or present a gentleman's agreement. One of the ways is by prize cards, meaning that if you go to time and you go through all 3 of your turns, so turn 0, turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, and there is not a decisive winner by the normal rules, you can state, hey, prize cards being whoever is ahead of prize cards wins at that point. Now, Dean brought up board state. Board state takes a little bit more of the knowledge base of the game into play, and who has the better board state, who would more likely be able to complete the game and get all prize cards from there. Yeah. To me, board state is more of a subjective instead of objective standpoint. That's why I will always bring up prize cards, because I am somebody, as we've talked about multiple times, I'm a numbers guy, I'm an IT guy. You got to give me a straightforward, this is the answer kind of thing.
And the con to that is depending on what deck you're playing. So if you're playing control, you're not taking prizes.
No.
So the prize cards is a severe disadvantage to you.
But at the same point, and this is why I personally hate control, being somebody that's looking at playing a control deck possibly.
It's a control-like deck.
Yeah, it is we'll talk about that deck next week. But there is... to me, you're not... like, especially Snorlax Stall, and there is a specific someone that probably listens to the podcast that I'm going to harp on here because he's played Snorlax Stall so many times and done so well with it. You're not playing the game, Justin. You're sitting there watching us struggle. Stop.
And that's why I also brought up board state, because sometimes it is easy to figure out board state. Like if you're at one prize card, I have two prizes, but like I have boss in hand. If we go into turns, I can just lay down the boss. I can say I had a game.
Right.
Technically
you would have if we kept going.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's more cut and dry for board state. But sometimes you just start and you have all 6 Pokemon in play, no one's taking prize cards. Or someone's taking 1 prize card, you have 6, your opponent has 5. It's very hard to know, like, if we would have finished that game, who would have won, especially if you're playing single prizes or a comeback deck.
Right. So the thing is that you can do gentlemen's agreements. I know a couple of people that we talked to last night said that they tried to do that, and then they would have won, but then the person's like, no. And so a couple of our friends said that either A, they didn't want to hit more people who have tied, because then there's more likelihood of a chance that you're hitting a deck that would go to ties more often, like Ancient Box, like Guardy, that do take more time in their turns, so there is more of a chance for them to tie.
Yeah.
And so that's also a thought process that you have to have of, if you get to that point, do you just, if the gentleman's agreement it's not going to be held, do you just give the win and go? Like, because other Justin, we have too many friends that are named Justin.
Oh, I remember when we had 4 Justins at our cup. That was fun.
That was insane. He said that was what his problem was. He did not want to hit ties. So he just gave the win, because he's like, even though we said in a gentleman's agreement, like, I don't want to hit ties because I'm most likely going to hit a deck that's gonna force me to go to another tie, and I don't want to. Yeah. If you're 3-2-1 at that point, if you're 4-2-1 at that point,
you're not making day 2.
You're not making day 2. So to get higher up in the standings, just instead of going 4-2-1, go 4-3. And then play to get higher up to get better points out of the tournament. Yeah,
at that point, you're just trying to see how many points you can get. Trying to get your 256 or all that stuff.
So there's a new way of looking at it, because last time, like, it used to be you were gunning for tongue-tied there. You were gunning for day 2. And you were worried about your placement, but you weren't as worried about your placement. But now with also getting your top 6 finishes between your regionals and your ICs.
Top 5 now.
Top 5. That's right. They updated it.
Yep.
So now top 5, your placement does matter because it's going to be replacing those.
Yeah.
So there's a whole new way you have to look at everything while at a regional that makes it even more, I don't want to say more convoluted, but it puts more pressure on a lot of people. And both our friends Justin and Wilson were saying it caused a little bit of anxiety and caused a little bit more anxiousness throughout the entire tournament, instead of it just being like, okay, let's play. How do I move through the day? It's, you got to go in round 1 going,
do you want a gentleman's? I've heard stories of people sitting down round 1. Do you want a gentleman's? Because ties do not make day 2 at this point.
Yep. So it's definitely something to consider now with people that are in the competitive scene, because do we want to deal with that? I mean, I don't have an issue with that, but that's also because, like I've talked about before, I play competitive sports. So to me, going into a competitive environment is, I'm going into a competitive environment no matter what. Yeah. So I've grown up with that. I'm used to it.
Because I had someone ask me for gentlemen's twice in the last couple years. First time was in Orlando a couple years ago. We were already, I think we were both 4-3 at the point. So we weren't making day 2, but we were just trying to get top 256. Honestly, I was on top of the world at this point. I'm like, oh, I'm doing so well.
Right.
Like, I was actually I may get 6-3. I will get top 256. And I went against a very known player in the community. and we went to game 3. He was like, "Do you want the gentleman's?" And I was firm. I'm like, "No, I don't want a gentleman's," because I've heard mixed messages at that point. I was fairly new to playing competitive in a tournament setting. He beat me anyway, so it didn't matter.
Right.
But that was my first introduction to it. And then in Charlotte, my winning in, I presented the gentleman's. Because at that point, I'm like, I'd rather one of us make day 2 than none of us make day 2.
Right.
Granted, I went 2-0 against my opponent. I won and made day 2. But I was going against a 16-year-old. He's a brand new master. And I'm like, and also, like, I'm not there all weekend just to play. I had friends with me. We were going to go sightseeing the next day if I didn't make it. I was fine giving him the win if I had to.
Right.
So those were my only 2 experiences with it. I know
I had one, or like my first Orlando tournament, funnily enough. We went into round 3, and I was still new to competitive scene, but I knew about gentleman's agreement, so I said, "Hey, we're going into round 3. Do you want to do a gentleman's agreement that if we go to time and I said, based off of whoever has the most prize cards wins." And he going through time steps. And he's like, "Yeah." Well, I've told you the horror story that I was just like, I got the win when he scooped.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was calling over the judge to double check turn 0, turn 1, turn 2. Go from there. And he scooped.
At that point, he scooped.
Oh, yeah, I know. And I said, "You scooped, man." And he's like, but, and...
We're not done the game.
Right. I think that made me 4-3 at that point. And I had been down at the bottom tables and gotten 2 of my wins because of no-shows. So I was like, I'm done. I'm driving home. Because I didn't have a place to stay. I knew I wasn't making day 2.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I'm driving home. But it gave me my 4th win, and I was like, okay.
Yeah. So, with all that being said, remember, in tournaments, no matter which level, challenge, cup, regional, international, doesn't matter which level, judges cannot uphold gentlemen's. We've been talking about this for a little bit now, but this is unofficial. You can't call a judge on this. All they're going to do is say who won. That's all they care about.
Right.
So take everything we're saying with a grain of salt. Take this knowledge, use it at your will, and just when you do a deck choice, figure out what's important to you. Is it just to make sure you can get a 2-0 victory? Or are you okay going to time and having that stress?
Right. Alright, so next we're going to talk about the challenge last night. As I said, Dean got his first top finish for a challenge. Woohoo.
Yay. Yeah, I went 3-0.
He beat me to get it.
To be fair, I got down paired to you, and you got up paired to me.
I did. Well, yeah,
because you were 1-1, I was 2-0.
Yeah, and I was 1-1 in a cheap way. So
yeah.
So round 1, I played one of our Justins, and he pulled out Ancient Box, and I was not ready for him to pull out Ancient Box.
That's very unusual for him. I will say that.
So I was playing Goldango and was going, okay, how am I going to do this? I got set up. Well, first off, I mulliganed 4 times.
That helps Ancient Box a little bit.
According to Justin, the cards weren't good cards, but at the same point, he, Earthen Vesseled, Ultra Balled, did a whole bunch turn 1, so I was like, yeah, those cards still helped you out in some way.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he pulled out Ancient Box, and I was not ready for that. And, I mean, Ancient Box into Goldango, it's hit or miss. He was able to consistently get things set up and I stupidly benched my Fez. I shouldn't have, because
target.
It was an easy target at that point. And then the next, so I got down to 2 prize cards, and he was swinging for 250. All he had to do was, Sada. No, I had my Goldango in front. He knocked out. He chipped 1 Goldango, then knocked it out. Then I brought out the Fez. he brought up the Fez next time. Like, he bossed up the Fez, or counter-captured the Fez. And then I had Iono in hand, and I didn't use it, but his deck was already so thin at that point that even if I Iono'd him down to 2...
It would have helped him out because of that.
No, he had the Sada in hand. But even if I... So I was like, if I Iono'd him, and I knew he had the Sada in hand because he had Pokegeared for it the turn before, and he got 2 Sadas. So, off of 2 Pokegears. And I think he had Explorer's Guidance in hand, too. So I'm like, he has... I knew that he had 2 cards that he could have used, but then I was like, there's gonna be a way that he could get it to it. Like, I looked... I knew he had only used 2 out of his 4 Pokegears, and I didn't know how many vessels he had. I think he had only used 2 or 3, not all 4. So I'm like, I could Iono him into it anyways. So I just swung, took out another one, and he had Sada in hand. So it was like, There was, like, it got to the point where I knew that because A, you and I have played Ancient Box so much, but B, I've also played against you playing Ancient Box so much that I kind of knew the writing on the wall.
It doesn't take much once it's set up. It's set up.
And Goldango is a lower stage, stage 1. It's at 260. So
it doesn't need to go through the whole deck to be able to hit the numbers it needs to.
Right.
It's not like going against Charizard or even like Drago or something like that.
So, I mean, I got down to 2 prize cards. It wasn't bad.
And he's a good player. He's one of the best in the country.
Yeah. So, then we had... so that was my round 1. Your round 1 was...
I went against Turbo Moon, my round 1.
Playing Klawf.
I was playing the Klawf that made day 2 at Charlotte.
Yep.
Or not Charlotte. Baltimore.
Baltimore, yep.
I made day 2 at Charlotte. Okay, yeah. I was playing Klawf for a little bit already. I was playing Ancient Box for a while. I wasn't too happy with it, and I went to a challenge. I'm like, I just want to have fun.
Yep.
And I just been on the Klawf grind for a little bit now, and it's a decent deck. I like it. With Moon, it was interesting. I went second. I whiffed my attack. I couldn't get the double turbo.
Wow.
So I promoted my Pecharunt, and he had Baby Moon in the active, and I just started poisoning.
And mini Pecharunt, correct?
Yeah, the mini one, the promo one.
Yep.
Where has the ability where when it's in the active, if your opponent's Pokemon is poisoned, it places 5 more damage counters on instead of 1.
Yep.
So you can do 6 total.
Yep.
So I started doing that, just kind of chipping damage, because I knew I had somewhat of an advantage against Moon anyway, because I hit the numbers to knock it out if they don't play the Capsule, which in this list, it didn't seem like he was.
Okay.
I've never seen him attach it. So I was just doing chip damage, and he went really aggressive, which you do in that deck.
Yep.
That's why I call it Turbo Moon. But I think he went too aggressive. And it just got to a point, he ran out of gas. I had a lot of stuff on my board. I was saving my resources. And I would just...
Didn't you say, like, in one turn he went through, like, 3 or 4 of his trekking shoes? And...
Yeah, by his second turn, he went through all 4 trekking shoes, 2 or 3 of his Pokecatchers. He had a boss in the discard.
Wow.
He had 3 of his Dark Patches in the discard. I think it's... Yeah, he just went too aggressive. And I picked up on that, and I was just bossing out the Pokemon that had the energy, because I knew he was reliant on Sada.
Yeah.
And Sada can only attach 1, and Moon needs 3.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he just ran out of gas. I was able to keep my board state good, and then I picked up that one.
Okay.
So I felt bad for him, because I talked to him afterwards, and yeah.
So then, round 2, I got the bye, somehow.
Bye.
Yeah, so I got the bye, so that put me at 1-1. But what was your round 2?
I went against some Rhydon player.
Okay.
So, our friend, Nate. Hi, Nate. He started off with... He went first. I chose to go second. And he started with Squawk, Iron Hands, and he had another Pokemon in play. Raikou. So he...
All of which you hit for weakness for.
I don't hit Squawk for weakness. They're actually resistant to it, but I do enough damage to knock it out.
I thought Squawk's weak to
Lightning.
Oh, lightning. That's right. My bad.
But so he did his first turn. He left his Raikou in the active, but he powered up his Iron Hands, which was the appropriate play to get the 2 prizes instead of 1 using Amp. So I knocked out his Raikou. He knocked out my Klawf using Iron Hands, and then I had another Klawf ready to go.
So you knocked out.
I knocked out, and then he didn't get anything else set up.
Oh no!
So then I knocked out his Iron Hands, and then he promoted the Squawk. He got Rescue Stretcher, and then he got like 2 Miraidons out, another Iron Hands out. But I already had enough in play.
Yeah.
I went 2-2-2, and
yeah.
Sorry, man. We're too old. This is the second time you hit me with Klawf. So, because the first time I donked him.
Yeah. Speaking of donks,
round 3.
Oh my gosh, I'm still salty. I'm sorry, I'm still salty, but I'm still salty.
Crab's better with butter. You know that.
So, we, have this thing, which I don't know what we need to do. I don't know if I need to hack Tom or something,
or just play better.
Oh no! Are we really gonna pull up the records now of how many times we've hit each other the last round, and who's on top out of those?
That's right. It's always been the last round.
So
that's the weird part.
It hasn't always been the I would say about 70% of the time when we hit each other, it's last round.
Yeah,
and it's just last round to figure out who's gonna make top 4.
That's true, yeah.
It has always been that way. It has never been we hit each other last round and it's like, okay, it doesn't matter. We can just ID and go because neither one of us is going to... No, it's every single time we hit each other last round, it's one of us is making top 4.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand this.
But, so what happened?
So, I won the coin toss and stupidly decided to go first. Which... Normally playing Goldango, you want to go first, so you can get set up. So, in this time I didn't mulligan. Wish I had.
I did, though.
You did, and it still didn't help me. So, I started off with 3 energy. So, there's 3. An Irida, a Night Stretcher, a Goldango, and a Gimmighoul. So I put the Gimmighoul down, and I'm like, cool. I then, so we're like, cool. And then Dean mulligans, so I get my mulligan, and it's another energy. So I have 4 energy in hand at this point, which is great when I have the Goldango in play. When I just have the Gimmighoul, no.
Nope.
So then... I draw my card, and I can't even remember what it was. I think it was Canceling Clone or something. Nothing.
It was Canceling Clone, yeah.
Nothing that helped me, and I was just like, cool, attach, pass, knowing that there was a very high likelihood that you were going to have it. And Dean, what did you do?
I had Artisan, Capsule, and DT in hand. Played Artisan, got the Brute Bonnet, attached to Capsule, attached to DT.
Oh, and you started Klawf.
And I started Klawf, yeah.
So, he had everything that he needed to win in hand. So, literally within 30 seconds of us starting the round, we're both standing up, cleaning up our stuff. And everybody's like, what happened?
Including the organizer.
Like, Joe turned around and was like, what happened? And I'm like... He donked me, shut up.
And Joe's looking at me because he knows what I'm playing. He's like, really? So that brings me to 3-0. So I ended up getting second. There was 2 of us that got 3-0, and the other person just had better resistance.
Yep.
So
I bubbled to 5th. So close.
I'm starting to think if we would have ID'd, would you have gotten 4th? Your record would have been what?
2-1-1. Oh, sorry, 1-1-1. And you would have been 2-0-1.
I would have got 2nd regardless.
I still would have bubbled.
So you would have got 5th regardless.
Yeah, because there were 2 people. 3rd and 4th were 2 1s.
Oh,
because
gotcha.
That was Jesse and Wilson.
Gotcha, yeah, because I would have been 201, which still would have got
better
second.
than 211. Yeah, so it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, so it didn't matter.
Because we did talk about IDing, which sometimes that's better just to give somebody a guarantee, but
yeah,
it didn't give me the guarantee, so I said no.
So it was a small challenge. There wasn't a lot of us, so we only played 3 rounds. We were out fairly early, but I'm glad I got my first challenge win. Trying to catch up to you.
Oh, what is it at? You're at 37?
25 plus 12, whatever that is.
So 37?
Yeah.
I'm at 38. And all of mine are challenges.
I got 1 cup top 8. So that
yes, which is helping you. Yeah. I only have a second, which is 13.
12.
Sorry, 12. A fourth, which is
10.
10, so that puts me at 22. And then 2 top 8s, which is 8 points.
Yeah.
So a 38.
1 point.
1 point. I'm going to hold on to it for now. I'm going to hold on to it.
It's still early in the season.
It is still very early on in the season.
So
I think we need to make a bet of who's going to get to 100 first.
I have no idea. It took me so much to get to 100 last season.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
And that's with us not even doing not that many regionals.
That's
so it's
going
to be hard. So
all right.
That was the challenge.
Yeah, I mean, you did good. I definitely like the Klawf deck. We'll talk about it here in a minute, a little bit more, but because we've kind of been talking about it all the podcast. But it is time for trivia.
Yes.
I'm going first this week because you went first last week.
Okay.
So, all right, let me pull it up. I had it. Where'd it go? All right. So, my trivia for you this week is... Where'd it go? Who was the first Pokemon ever designed?
Ever designed.
Designed.
That's the keyword, design.
Designed.
So, I know where John's going with this direction, because there's 4 Pokemon that are deemed the first Pokemon. There's Arceus, who is the god Pokemon. There's Mew, who has the DNA of every Pokemon. There's Bulbasaur, whose Pokédex entry is number 1, thus the first Pokemon. And what John's looking for is Rhydon, who is the first Pokemon ever created by the designer.
How can... Oh my gosh.
You love how I added more information?
Yes! It's not even that, like, I thought I got you. I thought you were going, and nope. Cool. Okay. I can't win. I introduced this segment, and I can't win.
My obsession's too much.
Apparently. All right, so Dean is now at 9 points total. Cool.
You want me to ask my question now?
Sure.
So I'll give you options because
just give me
because I have 2 questions I can ask you. Do you want to go TCG or video game?
TCG, because my knowledge for video game is not no.
So with Sun and Moon.
Oh gosh. Okay.
What do all the Ultra Beast GX cards have in common?
Oh, we were talking about this last night. This is a gimme.
We do. I was seeing if you were paying attention.
Of course I'm paying attention. All right, so all the Ultra Beasts have to do their GX move has to do with something with the prize cards.
Correct. So I actually researched this to make sure I was right. Either you're taking a prize card or you're actually adding prize cards to your opponent. But all the Ultra Beast GX cards had something to do with prize card manipulation.
Okay.
So, but I'll ask the VG one just because I think you actually will enjoy this one.
Okay.
In the video game, what do all the Ultra Beasts have in common?
I didn't play Sun and Moon, so I have no idea.
It has to do with numbers. That's why I thought you may like this, because I know you're a number guy.
Don't they all end, like, isn't their last digit in their number all a 1?
Along that line.
Okay. Is it a 0?
No.
Then I don't know.
All their base stats are prime numbers. Except for Nagando, which is 121, which is a square. But all the base stats for all the Ultra Beasts are prime numbers.
121 is a square. Well, it's a root, but it's also...
Yeah. So Nagando is the only one, but that was a newer one that got added. But if you play original Sun and Moon, they're all prime numbers.
Oh, okay. That's actually kind of cool.
That's why I want to give you the option. I wasn't sure if you want which way you want to go, because I knew you like that stat. So
yeah, but that I unfortunately didn't play Sun and Moon. I'm kind of debating going back and playing all the older games.
Well, I know you and me are going to play X and Y before Legends comes out. So we're actually, I think it'll be fun if we do that together.
Yeah. All right. So, as we always end the podcast, it is time for the Rogue Deck of the Week, even though we've been talking about it all podcast. But Dean, introduce the Rogue Deck of the Week.
Charizard! No, I'm kidding. It's Klawf.
If we ever have Charizard as the Rogue Deck of the Week, I think that may be our last episode. Ever.
So this week is Klawf Electrode. As we said before, it got 38th at Baltimore Regionals, which came out of nowhere.
Right.
Like, I was seeing posts on Twitter. People were like, I think I hit the same Klawf guys. Everyone was surprised by this deck. Because no one really thinks about it. It hasn't really been a thing since rotation. However, it does hit well into this meta.
Right.
You hit appropriate weaknesses. You're hitting the one shots you need to, and it's fairly easy to set up. I like it. Klawf is one of my favorite Pokemon now, so all because of playing this deck so many times in tournaments. It got better with Shrouded Fables. We mentioned that way before. But yeah, this deck just keeps showing up, and we saw it. I want to try it out, and obviously it worked out for me.
I think it was a smart play because with Jesse going as far as he did at Worlds with Miraidon, and with Ironthorn's winning Worlds, you're hitting for weakness against both those decks.
Yeah.
So I really think that was a smart play because it is, yes, with the Electrode, you are giving up a 2-prizer, and unfortunately it is a pretty weak 2-prizer.
It is, yeah.
But it gives you also time to get your Klawf set up, so that way you can then start going for the rest of the game. 1-prizer, 1-prizer, 1-prizer. Bring out the Bloodmoon Ursaluna to swing at the end if you need to. So I think it is a really smart play.
And it's fun. I updated it with Stellar Crown. I played a couple games with it. You and me were talking about adding the Cornerstone Ogre Pond in there just because we're expecting Area 0 to be prominent. So if I can have the Ogre Pond, I can set up my board better and not pick and choose what I need based on there. I can actually have all my options and then get that stadium out of play and eliminate my liabilities.
Right.
So that's something I'm
because we were talking, that is my, whenever I play you and you're playing that deck, I'm taking out as quickly as I can your Brute Bonnets.
Yeah.
Because even with Night Stretcher, yes, you can bring that back to the board, but if I take out 2 or 3 of your Brute Bonnets while they have the capsule on them, then I'm hoping that you prized one at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm also going, all right, if you're not, you now have to figure out what to do, because if I've brought up your Brute Bonnet and you don't have another one set up with the capsule, you can't re-poison your Klawf. So I'm making you use more resources to get what you need to do.
And that is the big downfall of this deck, is resource management and making sure you have all the pieces.
Right.
Yes, you play Arven. Yes, you play Town Store. And you play Colress Tenacity, get what you need for the special energy. But you're hoping you can get them all at the right time, or you can draw into it. You are aggressive in the beginning, so by the time you're hitting turn 2, you should be like halfway through your deck.
Right.
It's one of those type of decks. But if people are smart enough, yes, they will go for the Brute Bonnets. I've had that happen plenty of times. And I just have to keep Night Stretching and like hold on to my capsule. At one point, I think I played Roseanne's backup because of that.
Yeah.
But with some inclusions in this deck, you have the Bloodmoon Ursaluna, so late game you can still attack. Or, heck, I've won games attaching DTE and just doing the 220. That's all I had to do. Or you can just poison. I had to do that yesterday. I had to just poison people. Even today on my lunch break, I was playing this online, went against this Unpheasant Row Motom deck. It was weird. But
you hit weird decks on the ladder.
I'm also very low because I don't play live a lot.
I'm no longer Master Ball. It bumped me down with the new... I have to work back up to it.
I'm in Great Balls.
Sorry.
Low Great Ball.
Master Ball, yeah. So,
But yeah, the Mo Rotom has an attack where before it does any damage, it discards tools and special energy attached to your opponent's active. So for a while, I was just poisoning their Pokemon, and then that actually helped me set up for one shots with the Electrode.
Yeah,
because they're like, they attach the handheld fan. It's like, oh, you can move if you get hit with an attack, you can move your opponent's energy. Haha, you can't move energy if there's none attached.
right.
So I was trying to play into that. So it is a fun deck. I wouldn't plan on seeing it. I'm one of the weird people that just loves this deck and plays it all the time. So in our area, if you see me, just assume I'm playing Klawf. It's a smart assumption.
Yeah.
Or Ancient Box. Those are really the only two decks I have right now.
For now.
For
in
now.
a few weeks,
Yeah.
things may be a lot different. But,
Oh yeah. So fun deck. It is Super Rogue. It's still out there, still alive. Yeah, just learn your workarounds with it, and you should be fine if you ever see it in person.
All right, but I think that's all that we have for this week. So keep having fun playing your sneaky decks through the seasons.
See y'all. Hey everyone, it's Dean from the Rogue Deck Chronicles here. We just want to take a quick second to say thank you to our sponsor for Honor and Glory. They are great support to us and have all the things you need to play Pokemon, Magic, D&D, Warhammer, and all the board games that you love and enjoy. You can go over to forhonorandglory.com and use the discount code ROGUE24. That's ROGUE24 for 10% off your entire order. Alright, let's get back talking about those sneaky decks.